Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Shout out to all the subscribers. Welcome along anybody new. Gratitude to everybody. So Anthony Joshua gets absolutely battered last night. Daniel Dubois put on a career best performance, wiped out AJ, dropped him 4 times, stopped him in the 5th, retains his IBF World Heavyweight Title in a dramatic, I was going to say shootout. It wasn't a shootout. It was a one-sided beatdown. Eddie Hearn and, the promoters were still calling this like a Hagler-Hearns. That was one of the most ridiculous statements I've ever heard from a promoter. That was not Hagler-Hearns. If there's any new boxing fans that don't know what that fight is about, go and watch that, because that is a competitive war over in 3 rounds. Both guys getting hurt. I don't know if Hagler got dropped. I don't think so, but it was a tremendous fight. But this was not that, because you have to be competitive for it to be a Hagler-Hearns, and it just wasn't competitive. AJ looked a shell of himself, really. He looked completely petrified of Dubois. He looked nervous right before the bell when he's just standing in the corner. Sometimes you look at a fighter and you can't really tell, and everybody's saying, well, he looks nervous, and some people are saying he doesn't. He looked really nervous. And he fought nervous, he fought scared, he fought tentative, and he really didn't have, the spirit really, or the confidence or the ability and the self-belief actually in his punches, or, his defense really let him down. There was so much wrong with that performance, but let's give credit where credit is due, because Daniel Dubois came in how you're supposed to come in. Young, confident. Well, I say young. He is young. It's not his choice, but confident. He didn't get phased one bit by the occasion. He knew what he had to do. He put the pressure on straight away. And I mentioned that I picked AJ to win in a fairly comfortable win in 4 or 5 rounds. I thought he would maybe Dubois would come out early, but AJ might be able to get him under control. I thought AJ's jab was. You see, when he's punching, the biggest factor for me was just obviously AJ's confidence, but his lack of belief in his punches. His technique was all over the place. Obviously, when he got hurt in that first round, I mean, that was kind of the beginning of the end, really, because he never really quite got his legs back under him. Although he did seem to have his wits about him a little bit, he never really recovered. And that messed up his technique as well. You could see that he was wildly throwing that right hand. He was wildly throwing, the uppercuts. His jab had no, zing in it, and it had no assertiveness in it, which obviously at that point he was hurt. But even before that, his movement looked, like he'd regressed a lot. It's like we're looking at a fighter now that it absolutely cannot take a punch, and that's probably been the case for quite some time, which is interesting how you get matchmaking come into play and create a little bit of a false facade. I think a lot of us bought into the old AJ coming back, including me, to be honest with you, in the sense that he did fight with a bit more confidence, and yes, those opponents allowed him to do that. And in my pre-fight video, which I made the day of, I've only just moved. I didn't have time to do it. Apologies for that. But, I wanted to get a video out nonetheless, because, I did want to talk about the fight. So, but I was like, AJ, I think I touched on it. I was talking about Daniel Dubois. Key to victory for him was to be first. And absolutely he was doing that. And that's so important, because it doesn't give AJ time. AJ needs time. And if you watch the Wallin fight and Ngannou to a lesser extent, especially in the first round, but more so, the threat wasn't quite there, because AJ has, quicker feet, and he moves better. He's got more of a boxing brain, obviously, than Ngannou, way more. But even with Wallin was a little tentative of him, which allowed AJ that comfort to just flash these jabs off and feel like there's not much threat. And when there is a threat, which Daniel Dubois absolutely was from the opening minute, then it put AJ on the back foot, and he just all his senses went. He didn't really know how to defend himself. His arms were getting like his defensively. I was almost shouting at the screen. I was like, just keep your hands up. The most important thing in boxing You know, he had his chin in the air a little bit, hands up like that. He was trying to use this kind of long guard a little bit, which had no authority on it. A long guard is something, you know, you can either use for punching traffic or to just stiff arm your opponent. Or, you know, his jab had no purpose to it, really, you know. It didn't have the belief, but it didn't have the education, which I thought it might have, which it did in the Wallen fight. But again, that's down to the threat. He didn't have time to think about all these things. He got put under pressure early, and that was it. That was all she wrote. And Daniel Dubois, massive credit to him, never stopped coming. Had that sharp, powerful jab, and I mentioned about Dubois' jab, saying it was a little inconsistent. It was on the money last night. It lapped, smacking AJ's head back. Sharp, hard jab. And you can get someone's respect really quickly. This room, by the way, guys, apologies if the sound is a bit boxy, because I've got to figure out a way to get the audio a little bit better, because I listened to the video yesterday, it sounded a bit tinny. So bear with me on that. But, you know, Dubois' jab, rocking AJ's head back, getting his respect early, and it never changed. And Dubois never let up, and they kept putting that pressure on. And obviously, he just continued to do what he was doing, and, you know, dropped AJ 4 times in the make it. AJ, just like I said, never quite recovered. And then, you know, he did land a shot on Dubois. Dubois took it okay because he was taking the sting out of it. And actually, another thing, I was so amazed that AJ couldn't really land a bunch on Dubois. He landed a few jabs here and there, but like his inability to land, whether that was a Dubois adjustment in his previous fights, because I've mentioned his inability to defend a jab, or it's just his defense in general was quite poor. But fair play to him. He was just staying out of the way a little bit, but big part of that was AJ's lack in self-belief in his own punches, and that big part of that was the physicality and the strength and the threat of Daniel Dubois. That can put a real fear into fighters, you know, and make them not want to, you know, throw their shots, especially if you're a little bit chinny, and especially if you've got, you know, some questions about yourself, whether it be stamina, whether it be durability, whether it be all of the things that AJ obviously has, which has affected his confidence going into that fight. No two ways about that. And then in the 5th, obviously, like I said, he caught Dubois going back a little bit. It buzzed Dubois. It wasn't that bad. You know, people are making out it was like Dubois was badly hurt, or Eddie Hearn did. That's not true. He was stunned, I'd say. And AJ got overzealous, and Dubois remained calm under, like, you know, a little mini threat, and just shot off a beautiful right hand, and AJ walked right into it, and that was all she wrote. Timber. And, you know, it's an unforgiving sport, boxing. Especially the heavyweight division, you know, anything can happen. But when I say unforgiving, I mean, like, whatever happened to AJ, you know, whether it be the Klitschko fight, whether it be in sparring, or the AJ, the Ruiz fight, you know, something has been taken from him, you know, and he'll never get that back. You know, no matter how you match him or whatever, that's gone in terms of his confidence within himself to take a punch. Like, neurologically, you can never get that back. I know personally. I'm not putting myself, like, I'm just telling you, as I've previously fought in the amateurs, I had a decent chin, and then I didn't, and you can't get that back. I know you can't. So I kind of have a small idea about what he's dealing with neurologically and how it can affect you. Like, again, I'm not comparing myself on their levels. I'm just talking about what I went through, and you can't. What you have to do is you have to become an elite boxer and never get hit, basically. He's just not good enough for that. You know, it looked like his defense has declined. It looked like his footwork has gone back. Yes, part of that was because he was hurt. I get that. But, like, I don't know how you come back from that, to be honest. It's a humiliating beating, you know. And he's, AJ's talking about fighting again. Well, you know, the thing is, it's such a long road back. And he'd have to fight. Maybe, I don't know if Eddie Hearn, you know, how they do it in boxing, they'll just weave their way in some BS fights. But can you get the public back on your side? Does he still have it? Will he still have a fan? I know he had to build it back up, and is he really willing to do that? He's got enough money. I can't see him coming back from this, to be honest with you. Like, because, you know, let's just say his first fight back isn't going to be at Wembley Stadium, is it? So where do you, is he willing to go back down that road again? Thing is, what about AJ I've always respected, always admired big time, is his ability to do a bit of soul searching after he got stopped and go to America and seek out good training and try to get the best version of himself. And about a year and a half ago, I was like, he'll be back. And this was, I guess, the pinnacle of him being back in a big fight for a world title. I thought he was going to win. I thought it'd be a beautiful comeback. I even named the thumbnail Return of the King about a year and a half ago, because I was like, he really believes in himself and he's really trying hard, and I've got so much respect for that. But unfortunately, he just came up against, you know, a real tough, brutal, young, strong, physical, powerful man in Daniel Dubois that would not be denied, and that you know, it's gonna take a really good fighter. Obviously, he's lost a couple of times to, well, an all-time great in Usyk, and Joe Joyce had his day that day. You know, he had a great plan actually for Dubois, and you have to be able to stand up to a bit of physicality, and you have to obviously, well, the jab really for Joe Joyce, but he fought a tremendous fight tactically. So. Look, incredible. Daniel Dubois has changed his DNA from being a quitter to being, like, you know, one of the best heavyweights in the world, really. If you look at his run, you've got to put him up there. He just wiped out. I never really rated Ergovic. I picked Dubois to beat Ergovic, but I thought Miller would stop him and he'd quit, and I thought he would lose to AJ. But respect to Daniel Dubois, IBF champion. I'd love to see him in a big fight. I don't know if he's going to be able to do anything to Usyk, but credit to him, you know, young kid, 26-year-old world champion, and he's just had the fight of his life. You gotta love it, you know, you gotta love it. And shout out to anybody tuned in that watched the fights last night. I was watching some of the undercards as well, but you know, world crazy sport boxing is, isn't it? It really is one of the few sports that really keeps you on the end of your seat in such dramatic circumstances, you know, when you see heavyweight boxing. Although it was so one-sided, it was still very dramatic and exciting, and you know, it was I guess it was good for the sport. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I've probably missed a ton, as I always do. You know, I should have watched the fight back this morning, but I've got loads of stuff to be getting on with. I've got to fix this room up and you know, get on with what I'm doing, and get a bit more content out to you guys. I'm working on this Bivol documentary that should be, I'm working on the Better Be of Bivol fight breakdown. I've got this Bivol documentary. I'm going to talk about Xander Zayas in his next fight, Shushu Carrington. I've got a lot of content. I've got a new channel as well, if you guys are interested. It's me teaching boxing. If you want to get the best out of yourself, you want to learn about the sport, link in the description box. Come on over there. But for now, that is it from me. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, great week, peace and love. Boxing on the Edge. I'm out.
Oh, beautiful. Like, catching it, keeping your base good, so you're there to either counter or not get moved around so you don't lose your shape. That's all you got to do. Just stop it from coming in. If there's a hook coming in there, just stop it in its tracks. Good. See how simple that is? When you've got a good base and your stance is good too, so you're not too square on, you've got your shoulders dipped back a little bit. You should always be able to catch it. You're not too far away from just catching the shots. Here, there you go. You want that there though, so that doesn't ricochet into your head. You don't want it so close. If your base is good, your concentration's good, I can catch everything here. So you're counting with the same hand. Block it here, counter, hook. Turn your shoulders into it a little bit, so I'm coming here, and then when I switch it over, your shoulders switch like that, boom, boom. Not only does it make it more stability, but it puts you in a position you can counter now, like that.